Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm just going to set it slightly higher. Welcome back to the channel. If this is the first time you've been on it, welcome. I just talk about stuff off the cuff, no editing, see how it goes. But I have a bit more of a structure over the coming weeks based on some feedback and at least some ideas of how to frame some of these conversations. So someone asked whether I could give some advice or insights, feedback to younger folk. I say younger folk because I'm kind of in the middle-aged world. My goal was to initially just talk to people in midlife as well. But I guess it's one thing that we all have to realise. We all have some value. Sometimes you don't actually realise how much value you have because you do your day-to-day work and it's just work. You forget that you've lived a fair bit of time and there are people who don't have your experiences. So as I said in the previous video, that I will be basing my approach on the Wheel of Life, which is a life coaching tool that I've used in the past. In terms of my background, I work in finance, I've been a life coach, career coach, trained in that space, and a resume writer as well. So I'm bringing some of these insights to bear in the coming videos. Right, so today I'm talking about finance. And I know from, you just go onto YouTube, that this is one area that everyone loves to jump onto. And okay, and I'm going to do it because it's very important, but I do feel that a lot of people focus on finance first when they actually should be focusing on their personal well-being. Because I think a lot of things are anchored around finance being the answer to everything, when actually, you know, you could be perfectly fine with what you already have if you are comfortable in yourself and if you set your levels of expectation to a level that is manageable. I'll talk about all of this in a different video because, as I said, I'm talking about finance today. Right, so what do I know about finance? Okay, well, I've worked in the industry for years, wealth management, so I kind of should know about it. Stock picking, I'm not going to talk about stocks here. I might in a future video because I'm not really licensed to properly talk about it here. But one thing I would say, there's a few things I need to kind of start with. Firstly, any advice you see on finance online, blog, YouTube, call it what you will, just take with a pinch of salt. Not in terms of ignore, but acknowledge it and then see whether it's relevant to you, because there's no way on earth that all financial advice is relevant to 8 billion people. That's the reality. So just because someone says it's true doesn't mean it's true for you. Just because it sounds good doesn't mean it sounds good for you. Okay, and I'm speaking as someone that's been through a few economic cycles, have been sucked in to the boom busts of buying into the dot-com bubble, the housing bubble, I'm not saying, well, crypto ups and downs, Mag 7, etc., etc. So always think about, is this right for me in this right now? And I don't want to dismiss all YouTube fin influencers or whatever they call themselves, or those who talk about finance. But I do feel that a lot of financial advice provided online is coming from a very narrow perspective of not lived through cycles. So, and again, I can't be too dismissive because there are some very smart young people that give advice. But if you are, say, 35 and under, or 30 and under, giving advice about personal finance, talking about cycles, you probably don't have memories about the financial crisis. Not proper memories. Maybe your family went through issues with the financial crisis 17 years ago or so. So, okay, I'm overly dismissive actually. They would have memories, but they won't have the experience of having lost all their money. And I say that because I know people who, back in the 2008 crisis, who worked for a bank, their partner worked for a bank, they had their pensions with the bank, they had their mortgage with the bank, then the bank went bust. They had significant concentration risk based on that one narrative. So I guess where I'm going with this is a lot of the younger financial influencers haven't lived some of the harsh realities of some big downturns, whether we're talking about that financial crisis, whether they're talking about the dot-com bubble, which was like 24 years ago or so, these sorts of things. So the first bit of advice is take advice from everybody, but always be skeptical, always be able to question, the advice that you receive. Now, I think a lot of the things that we see online should be viewed as entertainment from a finance perspective, because fundamentally there are certain basics that everybody should focus on, and a lot of the rest of it is noise. It's the 80-20 rule. You get 80% of your impact of what you need from 20% of the input. 80% of the output from 20% of the input, let's put it that way. So if you think about the basics that are required for personal finance, it's things like spend less than you earn. Now that's kind of bottom line, the basic. If you bring in $100 and you spend $105, you're going to be broke in one way or the other. Even if some of that $105 is on your credit card, it's even worse because you are effectively paying somebody else even more than you need to be paying based on the fact that you're borrowing from them. So the very basic, think about spend less than you earn. Also, save money. And again, saving is not exciting. Saving is actually quite boring, but it's the boring things that make you, rich, at least stable. Because you can't just save, you have to invest. Now, I'm not going to be talking about stocks, but you have to find investment vehicles that work for you to allow you to build wealth over time. If you're a young person, the one thing that's in your favor is time. You may not have the salary just yet. You may not have the career that you want just yet, but you have time. And I know it's kind of hard if you're like 25 years old or 30 years old, thinking about what it's like to be 65 years old. But the reality is, touch wood, if you're lucky, you will get to 65. And so you will need that money that you had when you were 25 to have worked for you by 65. And by the age of 65, you'll be grateful that your 25-year-old self was more active in the financial sphere. So invest. And again, go online, learn the basics of investing. I might do a video on it. I might even put together an ebook. Regardless, there are certain principles that you have to learn to understand in investing. Now, all of this type of advice can be destroyed if you try to keep up with the Joneses. And that's the classic comparison is I can't even remember the saying. Yes, can't remember. Bottom line is comparison can be bad. I think a lot of people now will look at Instagram, look at all forms of social media, and will get envy. And that's understandable. It's a human emotion to feel envious of how people look, the lifestyles they are living, what they own. And the reality is, vast majority of that is BS. It's fake, it's phony, it's the highlight reel, not the real life. So don't fixate on someone's highlight reel when in reality you know nothing about the life that they have. The money that they're projecting could be down to crime. It could be down to sheer luck. They might have won the lottery. They might have inherited it. More likely than all of those is they are significantly wasting money They are using debt to project a lifestyle that they cannot afford. So they are on credit cards, personal loans, yada, 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 and they can't afford the lifestyle. So, and I get it's very challenging to kind of see the person up the street driving the nice new car. But the reality is, most people will show you the side they want to show you without you seeing without you having any clue about what's really going on beneath the surface. So run your own race. Try and map a path that is relevant for you in terms of your financial life, more broadly, your holistic spiritual life. Again, I'll talk about that another time. But for that, you kind of need to be intentional. So intentionally save, intentionally spend. Spend on things that mean something to you rather than mean something to other people. So don't be buying things to impress other people. Buy things that impress you. You know, if you want to go on a holiday to someone that's very quote unquote boring, do it for you. Don't do it just to project it on Instagram. Okay. But in order to be able to do all these spending dynamics, have a plan. Have some form of budget. It doesn't have to be, you know, restrictive to you living on rice and beans, but it has to be one that gives you a bit of a framework so that you know what money's coming in, what money's going out, and where it's going to be taking you. And again, you know, a lot of people online are projecting a false life because they have no clue about where the money's going. There are so many stories of people who have been pushed to bankruptcy having projected this lifestyle, and yeah, you don't want to be caught up in that. So the very basic, this is my first basic lesson on money, and I think I'll do a few more money ones because there's so much to talk about here, so much to talk about it. But the most basic things I would say is, firstly, absorb information from different sources on improving your finances, but take them with a pinch of salt because they have their own inputs or insights, should I say, which might not necessarily be relevant for you. So be discerning with the information that you take on board. Do the basics. Do the basics. I'm not saying don't jump into crypto. I'm not saying don't jump onto a meme stock, but those dynamics should be secondary. You need to be building your foundations. Have an emergency fund. Have some savings. Invest in an index fund. Do the boring stuff before you do the exciting stuff. Too many people start with the exciting stuff. They buy the meme stock and it goes up and it goes down, and then that kind of distorts their financial reality. That is their framework for finance. No, those things are nice. It's a bit like having a meal purely on I don't know, candy floss or something. You know, when candy floss is nice and ice cream is nice, but you can't live on it. That is the exciting bits that you should have after you've had your basic staples. Ensure that you've got your staples done before you start doing the exciting stuff. And if you lose money on the exciting stuff, fine, but at least you've got the basics sorted. So focus on the basics, then do the exciting stuff. But in order to do all of this, just develop a plan. You know, just say, I want to be able to do X, Y, Z in 10 years' time, whether that's to retire early, whether it's to buy a house, whether it's to get married, whether it's to save money for I don't know, a boat, put in place a structure, some form of structure. And again, there are so many places online you can find free resources to budget, but it's essential that you take control of your money rather than let money take control of you. Debt, fundamentally, good and bad debt, takes control of you. So ensure that you have control over your processes. Don't get heavily into debt, and be careful who you reference for your financial advice. Okay, well, that went quite easily. Okay, so please like and subscribe, because I will be providing a lot more insights on finance, which again is one of those areas that I have spent, well, my whole career has been in finance, but specifically in wealth management. So I'll provide more insights on that. But I've also had a couple of years when I was a career coach, and I also, again, ran my own business as a career coach. So I'm going to provide insights on careers, on working for yourself, on the evolving yourself as a human being, because I trained as a life coach as well. Okay, well, that's it for today. So yeah, like and subscribe, and see you next time.